Welcome students to the third day of this students workshop on development journalism organized by Press Club Kolkata in collaboration with the Unicef office for West Bengal. And for the first 2 days, we have had sessions on development from an economist perspective. We had a session on data journalism. We had a session on introduction to development journalism and another on fact checking. So greetings on International Women's Day, and I'm very happy to announce that a majority of our student participants from the 3 universities, Women's College Kolkata, Sister Nivedita University and Vishwabharati, majority of the participants are girl students. And incidentally, all the 3 resource persons of the day, they are very accomplished women colleagues in their fields. So I have the honor of introducing one of India's most well-known journalists, Ms. Monideepa Banerjie, who's an independent journalist who, in her career with newspapers and television over the last 40 years from Kolkata, has become a familiar name and face across the country. In the last 28 years, as a journalist with NDTV, she has covered momentous events from the Maoist movement at Lalgarh to the sainthood of Mother Teresa at the Vatican. While her passion is covering political developments, it doesn't end there. She has reported on burning issues that confront women and children, healthcare, certainly during the pandemic, and even on the vast and diverse cultural and social landscape of Bengal and the Northeast. She is a graduate of Lady Brabourne College, a Shieveling Scholar from the UK, and a Fulbright Hubert Humphrey Fellow, during which she spent a year in the United States in 2001 and 2002, all of which contributed to making her an incisive but calm, fair, and balanced journalist. And I wouldn't be over exaggerating if I say that she is brand Monideepa. Welcome to this students workshop, ma'am. Now the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Can the students talk to me?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Wonderful. So I would just like to know, first of all, how many students are on? I can see a few names and 23 others. So would somebody know how many people are actually joining up for this workshop? Would you know? Can't hear you.
It's 36 now, but it'll go beyond 70. That's what we've been having on.
Lovely. And thank you for sharing the detail that most of the students attending are women, young women who are already halfway on their way to becoming journalists. You all are all postgraduate students. Rather, you're pursuing your post-graduation in journalism. Is that correct?
Right.
Lovely. And did all of you study journalism as an undergrad subject, or is it something you all decided to, do once you had finished your graduation? Do we have any that? No?
Please unmute and respond to a question which has been put to you.
Okay, I can see Shriparna Roy. Shriparna, did you graduate in journalism? Did you do your undergrad in journalism?
Yes, ma'am, we all. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What about you, Jayati Mondal? Did you do an undergrad in journalism?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Oh.
Ma'am, I also UG student in 6th sem.
Okay. What are you studying right now?
Mass Comm Film Study.
Okay. And what about Triyasha Giri, who I can see you there? Triyasha? Kavyasri Roy, are you an undergrad student or are you doing your master's, and what is your subject? Okay, I know all the pitfalls of online stuff, they're sort of coming home to roost. But anyway, what I would like to sort of, first of all, congratulate all the young women on is that we all meet on International Women's Day, which is fabulous. I have just been speaking at some event about the challenges of being a woman journalist in this country and in the rest of the world. And, the basic question that I would love to ask you, and I'd be very happy if any one of you responds, is why do you want to even be a journalist? Why are you even attempting to be one? Is there somebody who can explain to me why? Well, just tell me, anything. Anushka Devnath. Yeah? Can you tell me, unmute yourself and tell me why you want to be a journalist? Okay, let me tell you my story then. It wasn't, yeah, is somebody going to say something? I can see Kuheli Kaur and there are many others joining.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. This is
Yeah,
Kuheli
hi.
Kaur.
Yeah.
If I have not mistaken, the question was why I want to become a journalist, right?
Correct. Absolutely. Spot on.
So, as per as my knowledge, I would like to say that journalism, the propagandas, whatever is taking, places due to media convergences and everything. So we are almost getting unbiased, and the media representation of that is getting no more unbiased. It's biased, opinionated. And to conclude on, I would like to say, uh, being a journalist, if I become one, then for sure I shall try to be neutral. And though in ground reality the term apolitical doesn't exist, as Ritik Ghatak said already, but we have to maintain and keep in mind that we have to be very neutral and apolitically deal with the news whatever we are getting, so that we can cover in that manner without being unbiased. Thank you, ma'am.
Lovely. I get your point that you want to be a journalist because you want to put out unbiased, you want to do unbiased journalism, which you think is increasingly missing today, and that all reporting should be without bias, without political bias or any other kind of bias. But ultimately, at the end of the day, why you are probably hoping to be a journalist is to make a difference to the lives of ordinary people in this country, impact their lives, somehow change things for them for the better. Would you agree with that? This is difficult. How many of you can actually say yes? Is that why you want to be a journalist? Because you want to somehow change the lives of people, make a difference for the better. Is that a correct way of putting it? Well, I know that that's why I became a journalist. As a very young person, I became a journalist technically at the age of 21. Social reporting. We report on a multitude of issues that face the people of this country today, particularly the underprivileged, the poor, the discriminated, people who suffer from all kinds of biases and lack of opportunity, people who are victims of crime. The range of issues that you can do a report on is huge. And nowadays, there are more and more issues that are becoming really parts of our lives, like climate change, the impact of that, the displacement due to climate change, all these multiple range of issues that are begging to be reported because somehow it is a little more fashionable to report political developments, but at the end of the day, meaningful journalism is social impact journalism. And I hope that is why you are actually going to try and come into the profession to do great quality social impact journalism and make differences to people's lives. Nowadays, people talk about development journalism, about data journalism, business journalism, science journalism, and so on. And I know that you all have done some workshops on some of these subjects in the last 2 days. But at the end of the day, it is how everything touches the human life that really matters, that makes a difference. So let me tell you, what really do you want to achieve? You want to set a flaw in society. You want to correct that. You want to challenge practices and traditions that, are unhealthy, completely based on some kind of, lack of knowledge. These are the issues that you want to do. So since we are on Women's Day today, let me tell you a little story that I have never been able to do, that I'd love to do one day or the other. So this was a story of, something was happening in Shingur, which you remember was where there was this whole drama about the Tata Motors car factory, nano factory. So someday I had gone over there and just gone into the villages, and I met this farmer who was growing something in his fields. I went down into the farm to talk to him. I was quite astonished that he could speak in English with a great degree of fluency. He said he had passed his BA in 1973. So he was happy to speak to me. We sat and chatted, and he was watering his fields and took out a few minutes, and he was talking about all the problems about farmers, what they were facing, about the whole issue of land acquisition. To onek kichu uni bollen. He said a lot. And then suddenly his attention was caught by 2 girls in school uniform who were cycling down the road, not far from where we were. And then he said, Dekhun, have a look, what happens. And sure enough, 2 boys also came along on their cycles, also in school uniform. And the 4 children, well, they were not children, they were class 11, 12 students. They stood over there with their bicycles, and they were chatting away, which is, what children or school children or young adults like them do. And then this farmer launched into a rant. He got very agitated, and he said that, this whole government's attempt to put money into the hands of women in our state, it is really causing trouble. Look at these girls. They have money in the bank from Konyasri or something, and they are refusing to marry at the right age. They want to study, they want to go to work. The boys are also, they feel very upset that they don't have any money. Anyway, the long and short of it is he was very angry with this whole, project of money going into the hands of women, thanks to government programs. And he felt that the whole fabric of society was getting destroyed. He was quite agitated, and he talked about it at length. Then, he did have a point. I mean, it was very interesting. It was a generation gap. It was patriarchy, misogyny at its best. It was, an old-fashioned way of looking at things, money in the hands of women, just not acceptable, And the other thing he complained about is, these girls, they are taking this money that they're getting and they're putting it into not education and all that. They are buying fancy cell phones. Kore Bhadalok, he just went on and on and on. And I stood and listened to him. I did not agree with him, but I thought what he was telling me is a fabulous story of society as it changed. But I never got to do this story because I didn't have one crucial element. This is what you call anecdotal evidence or anecdotal mindsets. You get it from talking to people. But then how do you translate it into a story? It's like a lot of meat, but with no skeleton. So you need a skeletal structure for the story, and that can only be provided by one thing: data. I need data. to turn this whole anecdotal recounting of, how the social fabric is changing, I need data for it. So I haven't had the wherewithal to look for it, but the data, what kind of data do you think I need? Does anybody have a suggestion? What is some data that could give this story a good, strong skeletal structure? Anyone? Anyone? I don't know if I'm getting a response or not. Shayoni, are you trying to say something? Okay, so the kind of data I think I need is what percentage.
Someone kindly unmute yourself, otherwise we cannot listen to ma'am.
Yeah, somebody has to mute themselves, right?
Yeah, sorry ma'am. Extremely sorry. I have told unmute.
No problem. Thank you. So do you have an answer, anybody, on what kind of data do I need, which is there present in the government, papers? I'm sure if I look, I'll find them. I've just been a bit lazy on this. But the kind of data I think I need is what percentage of recipients of this program, Kanyasri, for instance, in this case, are going for higher studies. So I need to see how much percentage of girls who are getting Kanyasri benefits are going for higher studies. Even more simple, perhaps, to get is the age of marriage for women in Bengal, is that going up? I mean, if it was 16 till 5 years ago, has it gone up to 18 or perhaps even 21? So this is the kind of skeletal structure that will give the story a proper shape. Anecdotal stuff is great. That's how you pick up a good story. That's how you understand you instinctively understand that there is a story here. So that is anecdotal evidence, as it were. But to give a story, a social impact story, a solidity that will, bear examination. For that, you need data which, is out there, which is with the government, which is in the public domain. But what we have to learn to do is know where to find it, and use it. But now, why do you think this farmer in the middle of a field on a hot afternoon, why was he talking to me? That's because somehow I worked on it. I created an empathy with the farmer. I made him feel that I was listening to his point of view, though I may not agree with it. But I was respecting and respectfully listening to his point of view. And creating that empathy is the first step to really getting a good social impact story. Listen to people, listen to what they have to say, listen to contrary views. Don't get into an argument. I mean, I wanted to tell the farmer, that he was all wrong about what he is saying, but I didn't, because then he'd have shut up. So you need to create that empathy with your subject so that you get their point of view and you can use it to create a story that will have social impact. So empathy is huge. When you go into villages, most people are hugely friendly. I mean, they want to be part of your story. They'll offer you tea, they'll offer you breakfast, they'll offer you lunch. And, you may be unwilling to really eat anything at that point of time. You may be in a hurry to get on with your assignment, but it's part of empathy building that you stop, have a cup of tea with them, talk to them, and create that little bond that'll bring the people and their stories out. I mean, when I reported, for instance, in Lalgarh, where there was the Maoist problem, or in Nandigram and Shingur at the height of, all the trouble over there, it was very important to be able to strike up sympathy, empathy, and a communication with your subjects. Unless, and that's a skill that you have to develop. Nobody is born with it. It's a skill you have to develop, and it comes out of you if you are truly interested in the people about whom you want to do a story. I remember during Lalgarh, I was walking down with CRPF one day, and they were going from house to house, searching for people, searching for Maoists. Now, all the villagers, in sheer fright, they had fled. All the houses in the village were empty. Now, I sort of actually went into the houses of some of the people, looked in, everything was open, and they had fled. And then a few days later, I went down that route again, and I stopped at the same house. And the family came out and said, yes, we saw you that day. We were hiding. We didn't know who you were. We didn't know, which side you were on. But now that you have come back, here we are. We were all hiding that day, and things were terrible. And then they went on to recount how they had hidden themselves under sacks of rice or hay or whatever it was, and how frightened they were because, the CRPF scared them, but they were also terribly scared of the Maoists, what their lives was like, in these troubled times. So the story that one got out of this family, because one managed to, create an empathy by visiting their house twice in a few days, and that was quite unprecedented. It's very rare to get a real life story about real people like that. I also remember once I was going, and there was a Maoist, and there was something happening at a particular village, and villagers were stopping reporters from going there. So I remember that there was a lady with a, what do you call it? A sickle, একটা দা নিয়ে দাঁড়িয়েছিলেন. She was refusing to let us go. So I called up a contact and I said, will you speak to this lady? She's not letting me through. So this contact, who had Maoist links, he said, okay, I will speak to her. And so I gave the lady my BlackBerry phone, and she took it and she talked to this man and let me go. In a way, that was also creating empathy and some connect. Otherwise, she wouldn't have let me go. The way she stood on the road with her, da was quite frightening. And there is a fabulous picture which came out the next day of this lady holding a da and a BlackBerry phone in her hand and to her ear and talking. And, the contrasts of that picture were terrific. Ek hate da ar oi hate BlackBerry duto dhore. The lady, clearly a Maoist sympathizing villager at that time. She was the person who was standing between us and going on to report. So somehow creating that immediate rapport is very, very important and a huge part of being able to report on social. Never want to expose people who have talked to any kind of danger that they might end up confronting. Say a woman in a village who tells me about a Maoist who has been hiding in the 5 houses down the lane. If I were to expose her identity, then she'd get into all kinds of trouble, may even lose her life. So somehow, when you're doing a story that involves a social issue like this, you have to be sure that the privacy and the safety of the person you are speaking to is safeguarded very, very strongly. Otherwise, it can have very tragic consequences. That is another thing that I learned, especially reporting in very troubled areas like Lalgore or Nandigram or Shingur, it could be a question of a loss of life. People were getting killed over there. I just mentioned the word privacy, and that is so hugely important when you are reporting on things like rape, which is something I think every journalist at some point or the other in their career has to report on. Sadly, it's a sad commentary, but it is reality. And in Bengal, we have had our share of very unfortunate cases. And they have, nobody, like unlike you all, went to journalism school when nobody told us these things. So one had to sort of learn on the job, go by instinct. How do you report on a girl who has been raped? The sensitivities are huge. In, for instance, the Park Street rape case, I mean, it was, the lady who got raped, she was outspoken. She wanted to speak. She wanted to tell her story and her horrific experience. She wanted to talk about it. And she did. But I don't know if you all were old enough at that time, but you do know that she always spoke in the silhouette for a long time. They would put a backlight. You know what a backlight is? When you put a light behind the subject's head, what happens is the face becomes completely dark. So you had the backlight, you couldn't see her face, but she had a very distinctive hairstyle, so everybody knew it was her, and how she spoke and spoke and spoke. The need to guard her privacy is absolutely tantamount. Not only does the law require that you cannot reveal the identity of a victim of rape, but it is something that you should do ethically as part of your journalism ethics. Never ever reveal the identity of a rape victim. Now that leads to huge problems. Like, you cannot, what do you show then? How do you convey report about a rape without showing a person? Not just a person, but about her. You can't show her family or any such thing. In fact, I recall that there was a case of a child being molested in a school. And I was reporting and had to face these problems that I don't have anything to show. What do I do? I made the mistake of standing in front of her school. And in my frame, the name of the school was there, not in glaring into your face. And it was a primary school. It was a private school, and there was a decoration on the gate, and it was very pretty. So I thought, okay, this is neutral enough. And I just missed that on the other side of the gate, you could actually read parts of the name of the school. I was doing a live, so there was nothing anybody could do about it. It went on air like that with the name of the school half revealed, and I got into so much trouble for that. I mean, I really regretted it, but I got into trouble with my office, which said you should know better. You shouldn't have done that. And then, of course, the school authorities were also hugely upset. They complained. And it was a lesson I learned and haven't forgotten in a hurry. In the case of the Park Street rape victim, who turned a bit of an activist later on, it was, I remember finally I had to reveal her identity because she went on a march against rape. I think she was on a protest march against Nirbhaya, the incident in Delhi where this young woman was not just raped, she was murdered. So Suzette Jordan, she joined that protest, I remember, from Birla Planetarium to, maybe Park Street. I can't remember where it started, but I know I caught up with her in front of Birla Planetarium. And I said, how am I going to do the story? You are here with your face exposed. And, how will I do the story? So I actually called up my office and I said, what do I do? There is Suzette walking on a protest march, exposing her face, revealing her identity. How do I do it? So the short answer I got back, because it was all happening at that time, and I had to respond to the situation. The short answer I got from Delhi is get her consent on tape. So when I started my interview with her, Suzette Jordan, with the camera full on Suzette, I asked her, the first question I asked her is, are you willing to talk to us on camera with your identity revealed? And she said, yes, I'm fine with it. And that's when we continued the interview. So these sensibilities are very, very important when you are reporting on issues like rape. Even I remember the incidents are endless. The kind of, sometimes you unthinkingly do certain things, like me standing in front of that child school and revealing the name of the school. That's something you do accidentally and unthinkingly. But the kind of alertness you need to display when dealing with these cases is something that you really need to be mindful of. It's a huge part of being sensitive during reporting on social issues. There was another incident at another school where a young girl got molested. By that time, I had learned several lessons, so I didn't repeat the mistake. But it is a challenge, and it is one of the most challenging things these days when it comes to reporting these gruesome incidents. And many of you will remember Unnao and Hathras, and I can't imagine how difficult it must have been for reporters in UP to report on those incidents. But rape, murder, child abuse, these are not just the issues that you need to report on as social impact issues. There are many, many others. I need to ask you, do any of you have a specific issue, a social impact issue that interests you? Kuheli, since I know I have spoken to you a few minutes ago, can you tell me, is there some particular issue that you want to focus on as a journalist, a social issue? Oh, wow, there are 53, 54 others. Anybody? I can just see a few names, but if there are others attending this workshop, are there any particular issues, social interest issues that you want to share with me that you want to work on as a journalist in the future?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Ma'am, as you're talking about the Hathras rape case, and I sincerely believe, if I'm not mistaken again, the reporter was Pratima Pandey.
Yep.
She was in the field and she was taking the bites of the family members, and she was not actually, pious, and she was burnt, literally burnt. And she charged the police like, I don't know, I respect her utmost. Regarding, you have also said that various field works you have went through, like Shingur, Nandigram, various ways. Yeah, is this the portrayal, the real portrayal? We need to think of it. It's high time and heinous, I believe. And another thing, I believe, as you're talking about the Park Street, Suzette also is no more with us, right? So also another thing, regarding the Maoist thing, you're telling that Daniye Dariye Ache and Black Phone, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yes.
So, ma'am, you also know about the scenario of Bastar, Chhattisgarh, right?
Yes.
So, have you been there? I mean, any time
Never.
till
Never.
war?
No.
Okay. So there is a sort of like humdrum going on, কি মাওইজমের রাত চলছে ওখানে, ঠিক
Ah,
আছে? Huh. So, and another thing is that Nirvaya case, we could manage to, I mean, not name that I mean the person, I mean the women.
right.
And other factor is that if I'm not wrong, ma'am, also you're talking about the school rape cases.
Yeah.
And you have mistakenly or unintentionally told the name of the school.
I
And if
haven't told
I'm
it
not,
yet. I didn't tell it. I didn't say it, but it was there in the frame.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I get it. So
Yeah.
if I am not mistaken, and if I am tracing back to history, when I was in most probably in class 7 or 8, so I came to know about the first rape case in my life. That was the girl was named as Hetal Parekh from Welland Goldsmith School.
Yep. That's right.
So you were talking about it or not? That was a confusion for me. That's it.
No, that was not the story. No, no. But again, I mean, since you bring up the Hetal Parekh case, which was a milestone, really, it was a milestone case because ultimately it was awarded the death sentence. I will tell you that that was another issue on which I learned an important lesson. And that is at some point of time when that Dhananjay was in jail, and the sensitivities that you have to keep in mind, those are lessons one needs to learn, and I'm happy to share my experience with you so that you all perhaps don't repeat the same mistake. But I had an opinion, right? I had a stand on hanging, right? Death penalty. I'm against the death penalty, instinctively so. So when Dhananjay was in jail, and I was standing outside Alipur jail and doing a live talking about what was going on, I apparently used a word, bloodthirsty. I said, there are protesters who are demanding that Dhananjay be hanged. Bloodthirsty protesters are demanding that Dhananjay be hanged. I used the word bloodthirsty. আমার মাথায়ও ছিল নাকি আমি এই ওয়ার্ডটা ইউজ করেছিলাম. But again, I got into a lot of, unfortunate trouble for that. The whole lesson of being objective in situations like this. আমার অফিসের ডক্টর প্রণয় রয়ের এক বন্ধু, সে ওই রিপোর্টটা দেখেছিল, and he was possibly pro execution. আমি জানি না, উনি দিল্লিতে কমপ্লেন করলেন কি আপনার রিপোর্টার bloodthirsty কথাটার ব্যবহার করছে, which is not correct. I was so taken aback, in the flow of words, I had allowed a subjective opinion to come out in a situation like this, and I should not have done that. I mean, the whole point of being a reporter is being objective, especially when you are reporting on these hugely sensitive matters. So, this kind of slip, I will say it's human, but the training to be a journalist should reduce the number of times you make that mistake. So that's a very important part of training to be a journalist, reporting on social, political issues, where you keep a distance between your subjective views and what you're saying in public. It is very challenging, it's very difficult, but it is something that training, as you all are undergoing, your education as journalists, should be able to help you with. But all I'm trying to tell you at this moment is these are the pitfalls in social impacts reporting that one should be careful about. So that was another lesson. The whole business of calling protesters who wanted the hanging bloodthirsty. I may have opposed it, but I had no business to put it out on air as a personal point of view. So I'm glad you brought up that particular story because there were many lessons in it. The media was divided as ordinary people. And, it was an education actually on how to, maintain objectivity in situations like this. And that is a practice, the practice of objectivity that will have to be used whenever you are going out to report, whether it's politics or business or social impact issues or developmental issues, whatever they are. Objectivity, I believe, I'm old-fashioned enough to believe, is still the cornerstone of good journalism. And certainly when it comes to social issues, it's a must. I know that storytelling, that is a skill that you need to develop as well. The skill of telling a story in these circumstances, when you can't show the face of a person or you can't reveal a lot of things, where you have to maintain objectivity, balance, lack of bias, and so on. The formula that I have used in my many years as a television reporter at NDTV is go from the micro to the macro. You may want to make a note of this because this is a very important lesson on how to tell a story well. And this is also, that same story that I was telling you at the beginning, that the farmer may have given me anecdotal evidence of something, but I need data to make it a solid report. So you go from micro to macro. What am I actually talking about? For example, you want to talk about the problem of child marriage. It's a huge problem in this country. And I was just being told earlier today that in the COVID lockdowns of the last 2 years, the number of child marriages in this country, and definitely all, has really shot up. It has gone up. So you want to report on child marriage, or you want to report on a case of trafficking, or the whole problem of trafficking. How do you do that? I know that there was...
Ma'am, sorry, আমি একটা কথা বলতে চাই। লাস্ট 2 ইয়ার্স যে কন্যাশ্রী আপনি বললেন না এই বিষয়টা, তো আমার আগের বছর আমি দেখেছিলাম আমার গ্রামের বাড়িতে, তো একজনের বিয়ে হয়ে গেছে, সে কন্যাশ্রী টাকাটা পেয়ে সে ফিক্সড করে রেখে দিচ্ছে। সে বলছে আমার এটা ভবিষ্যতের জন্য রেখে দেবো। তাদেরই কিছু কয়েকটা বাড়ি পর তারই একটা ফ্রেন্ড বলছে আমি এই টাকাটা নিয়ে আমি এখন বিয়ের আমার যে গয়নাপত্র কিনতে হবে সেটা আমার কিনতে হবে, নইলে আমার বাড়ি থেকে ভীষণ প্রেশার পড়ছে। মানে একই টাকা দিয়ে মানে কতজনা কতভাবে ইউজ করছে, কিন্তু আলটিমেটলি মানে হায়ার স্টাডিতে মানে কতজনা মানে লাস্ট 2 ইয়ার্স কোভিডের মধ্যে যে টাকাটা লাগিয়েছে, আমার মনে হয় না কেউ মানে ঠিকভাবে টাকাটা মানে হায়ার স্টাডিতে মানে ইয়ে করেছে।
It's a very good
Ma'am, am I audible? Again, this is Kuheli Kaur from Vishwavarati. So regarding this Kanashri, I have to tell something.
Tell me.
বাংলায় বলবো?
বলতে পারো।
ম্যাম আমি আমার ইন্টারভিউ করিনি, আমার নাম সুচরিতা গোস্বামী, আমি বিদ্যাসাগর কলেজের স্টুডেন্ট।
Oh, lovely. Yes, সুচরিতা, তোমার নামটা দেখতে পাচ্ছি। Very nice to meet you, and it's a very interesting point. I think আমার একদিন এই স্টোরিটা করতেই হবে, the impact of...
ম্যাম আরেকটা স্টোরি আছে যেটা হচ্ছে মানে লাস্ট 2 ইয়ার্স অঙ্গনওয়াড়ি যেটা বন্ধ ছিল, তো সবাই বলছিল যে মানে বন্ধ রাখা দরকার, এই দরকার, মানে শহরের কলকাতার যারা বন্ধু আছে তারা তো বলছে হ্যাঁ বন্ধ রাখা দরকার। যেহেতু আমি মফস্বল বেস এরিয়া, তাদের মানে ভীষণ প্রবলেম হয়েছে।
কি বন্ধ রাখা দরকার?
অঙ্গনওয়াড়ি মানে যেটা লাস্ট কোভিডের জন্য ছোটদের জন্য এটা বন্ধ রাখা দরকার ছিল।
Oh yes,
তো এইটা মানে যখন মানে বন্ধ রাখার দরকার ছিল লাস্ট 2 ইয়ার্সে, মানে অঙ্গনারী যারা যে সব বাচ্চারা খাবার পেত তাদের পরিমাণ কমিয়ে দিয়েছিল, এবং এবং অন্যান্য জিনিসপত্র দেওয়া হচ্ছিল না, ডিম বা অন্যান্য জিনিস বা চাল আলু এবং সবজি আলু দেওয়া হচ্ছিল। এবং মানে লাস্ট 2 ইয়ার্সের ওদের এমন অবস্থা হয়েছিল ওই অঙ্গনারীর খাবার দিয়ে মানে তাদের পরিবারেরও খাবার চলতো, পেট চলতো।
এটা আমাদের এখানেও হয়েছে এই ব্যাপারটা, অঙ্গনারীর ব্যাপারটা ম্যাম।
Ma'am, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. Like after Sucharita, I was about to talk about Kanashri and everything. If you allow me, I shall
Kolkata,
continue.
where do you live?
Yes, you told you.
Because I think geography is very important.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Sorry?
Am I audible?
Okay. Both of you are audible. I may just go to Kuheli first. Kuheli, where do you live? কোথায় থাকো?
Ma'am,
তোমার বাড়ি
Kolkata,
কোথায়?
Damdam Junction. That is my I mean, I hometown, born and brought up.
Okay. So you were
So
saying Konyashri
right now I am at Shantiniketan because I'm a VV student.
Okay.
So yes, ma'am.
So-
Regarding the Kanyashri factor, I can conclude with so many things like the West Bengal government has provided like Lokhi Bhandar and so many things. There are so many prokolpos and the cycle bitoron, like they are providing cycles enormously, and I am like being from there. I mean, I came to know, and the midday meal also. So like আমাকে the students and there are memes in the social media, you know, like private school students versus I mean the government school students. They're saying that my mom has given this things, this pizza or pasta for tiffin. Do you want to have it? Or they wanted to share. And the girl replied with like, না রে, আমি ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গল গভর্নমেন্টে পড়ি, আমাদের মিড ডে মিল দেয়, আমাদের খেতে হয় না, বাড়ি থেকে খাবার পাঠান না, ঠিক আছে? So this is another factor. And another thing is that the cycles they're getting, they are telling almost like ঠিক আছে সাইকেল তো পেয়ে গেলাম, এবার তো সাইকেল তো দিতে আর ফেরত দিতে তো হবে না, কুল এনাফ দেন, তো আমরা রেখে দেব, ভালো হলো, সুবিধা হলো। They're taking all the advantages, but the thing is that the hypocrisy of any sort of I mean government schemes or anything like that, that thing is very heinous, I believe. And another thing regarding Kanyashri, yes, absolutely, I agree with Sucharita. They are not opting for further studies. They are mentally prepared. Either
Wait. I'm going to interrupt here. Okay. Why? Because you know this is the kind of anecdotal stuff when you do a social impact story that you must back up with data. আমি তো তোমাদের গল্পটা বললাম কি এরকম এরকম শুনলাম, কিন্তু I haven't got data to give the story the bones, the skeletal structure that it needs. So this is the pitfall. You know, anecdotally, you might hear many things. Like I will tell you that anecdotally, after the government in Bengal started giving cycles, then I think some other state governments followed. And this whole business of giving girls money to go and study in school, that has been copied. And, you know, there are many experts who believe that it's a good developmental model. What you and I are probably talking about are the exceptions. So, you know, hypocrisy and all that is a bit strong. So there are always other sides of the story. See, you are actually, তুমি যা বলছো তাদের থেকে আমার I can tell you that these are important lessons while social reporting or any reporting, and that is there's always another side of the story. একজন মেয়ে সে হয়তো you know মনে করছে সাইকেলটা আচ্ছা রইলো সারা জীবন থাকবে, কিন্তু আরেকটা মেয়ের জন্য it might have been a very crucial component to her further education. হয়তো খুব দূর থেকে সে আসতে পারছে স্কুলে. So there are many sides of the story, and to make a story stand, you have to have data to back it. That is one of the primary lessons of journalism, always, and certainly today, when there is data available in the public domain to draw the conclusions that hopefully are factual and the truth. এগুলো it's very interesting. যেমন, the gas supply, the center's Ujjwala scheme. I know that my colleagues in Uttar Pradesh were talking about it. কি সত্যি এক সময় ঘরে ঘরে সিলিন্ডার পৌঁছে গেছিল, গ্যাস স্টোভ পৌঁছে গেছিল গ্রামে গ্রামে একেবারে ইলেকশনের আগে। ওয়ান্ডারফুল রেভলিউশন। কিন্তু এমনই হলো, ইলেকশনের 1-2 মাস তো গ্যাস সিলিন্ডারটা চলে গেল, তারপরে দেখা গেল কি গ্যাস সিলিন্ডারের দাম যা, ফ্যামিলিগুলো আর কিনতে পারছে না। সো again, this is anecdotal. এটা আমি পড়েছি কাগজে, শুনেছি from my colleagues, but I don't know data-wise exactly where that story stands. মানে সত্যি কি তাই? তার মানে একবার একটা সিলিন্ডার খরচ হয়ে যাওয়ার পরে মানুষ কি আর গ্যাস কেনেনি? যা দাম বেড়েছে, I wouldn't be surprised. But we should look at data. কি ডেটা দেখো, কি সত্যি কত সিলিন্ডার কেনা হচ্ছে একটা গ্রামে, যেখানটায় হয়তো 100টা বাড়ির মধ্যে হয়তো 50টা বাড়িতে উজ্জ্বলা কানেকশন আছে, হয়েছে, ইলেকশনের আগে দেওয়া হয়েছিল, কিন্তু তার 3 বছর বাদে কটা বাড়িতে গ্যাস লোকে সিলিন্ডার কিনছে, that is the data that you need. So also with your cycles or midday meals or whatever. But fascinating insights. এই যে সুচরিতা বলল, আমার গ্রামে মানে অঙ্গনওয়াড়ি চলছে না বলে এত অসুবিধে মানুষের। ইটস ফ্যাক্ট। এগুলো তো হচ্ছে, কিন্তু এগুলো একটা রিপোর্ট করার জন্য you need data. So please remember that data is like a skeleton of a body and the rest of it is story. Sharmila, were you trying to say something? Sharmila Shah Roy?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I have the similar kind of experiences, but I have both kind of experiences through I have seen my friends, my classmates, of other classmates. I have seen both the stories. Previously I was also agitated that government are putting so much and it is, gone in vain and waste. But later I found that no, some of the girls really needed those things.
Yeah.
Because some are wasting it, but some of the girls really needed it, and due to these help, they can they could continue their studies, and they opted for higher studies also. And not only that, and later on I found one story that due to these projects, girl child marriage rate was down, because girls are more eager to study now, and even the family are not pressurizing the girl to get married.
Wonderful.
Because of that, because if the girl is married, then they will not get the money. So that's why they are not pressurizing the girl to get married.
Oh.
So
see, two sides of the story. The good side is the girl
Right.
is studying and she is not getting married in a hurry. But the other side is maybe the parents don't want her to marry so that she can keep earning that money.
Yes, then I realized that yes, we should think of the bigger stories, not only the partly stories. So yes, some percentage of the project money would go in vain.
Correct.
But since it is a developmental project, so it will took time to keep running to the to achieve the targeted goal.
Yeah.
So then and now now your briefing proved me right that yes, ma'am is also saying the same thing.
Yeah, so you see, ultimately, all I'm underlining again, at the risk of sounding very boring, is that data, 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 and the data is out there. I mean, if you're not a lazy journalist, like sometimes I am, you have to find the data, and that will give you the true picture. I mean, that
Very
is the only way to actually.
actually, I met you once personally
Oh,
in a seminar,
really? Wow.
a university seminar. I have met you once.
Okay. Okay. So I can tell you that, I have faulted on many counts, sometimes for lack of data. There are real issues like, for television, you have to produce a story every day. Do you have the time to go looking for data? How do you cross-check data? It's so time dependent, and television is so time intensive. Ekhantaয় ছোট, ওখানটায় ছোট, ছবি কাটো, বাইট শোনো. It's like takes a lot of time. তার উপরে data, forget it. Just that story has been lying in cold storage for a
Yes,
long time.
and apart from that, there is so much pressure of bulletin of on time.
Absolutely. It's very difficult. I'm telling you, ideal situations that you get the data, analyze it, do the story. But it is
Actually, ma'am, I spare all of them to talk, because yes, there is so much question on the mind. I passed out and I have joined the work front. I mean, 2-3 months back. So I am introducing with the situation a little time back, so I can connect with some of the situations.
Yeah. But anyway, I can't believe that we are going to be running out of time. I mean, when I started this session, I was thinking, oh my God, what will I talk for 1 hour about? But I think we are just about running out of time. So if anybody has some quick questions, perhaps we have a few minutes to take them. Anybody else who wants a question in on anything? No, but it's wonderful that there are about 60 people at the meeting. I'm really happy you all have spent 1 full hour with me today. And it's a pleasure always exchanging ideas. I think I must, because I have learned so much from this career, from this profession, that I feel the need to share. And I will leave you with old-fashioned beliefs that you must keep with yourself as you go forward into the profession, turn into reporters or camera persons or whatever it is you want to be. And that is, despite all the biases that are creeping into media, and I'm not going to deny that they are, despite the biases, despite the lopsided reporting that we see, please continue to believe that, the media is the 4th pillar in a democratic society.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry for the interruption, ma'am, and asking you too many questions at a time. So the last discussion, I don't know, Sharmila was talking about something, right? If I'm not wrong. Would you just, I had to tell you something. And another thing, like, পশ্চিমবঙ্গের যেই আরো গুলো প্রকল্প আছে, তার মধ্যে যেমন লক্ষ্মী ভান্ডার করে দেওয়া হয়েছে একটা, তারপর ধরুন আপনার এই মানে কন্যাশ্রী ছাড়া লক্ষ্মী ভান্ডার, তারপর একটা কি, হ্যাঁ, বিধবা ভাতা. If they want to opt for remarriage also, their শ্বশুর বাড়ির লোকজন, they are forcing the women, like they're like almost around age of 26 or 27, and তুমি কেন খাতায় নাম লেখাচ্ছ না? Maybe they have the opportunity to settle their lives in their own manner, but there is again, protection, and not protection, actually provocations rather. And if you kindly talk about like the last thing, the unthinkable and unimaginable part, whatever Sharmila was talking about, if you kindly talk about that, I shall be able to just wrap it up soon.
Okay, that's a long question. And thank you for the story idea. I will examine whether, again, data. I will check data. How many women who are getting Vidhava Bhata are opting out because they are remarrying, and how many are continuing? These are issues that I think need to be investigated. I think it's a good story idea. Thank you for it. I will certainly do my best to look into the issue. Kuheli, happy to continue this conversation with you offline, because
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm glad and more than anything. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Any one of you who wants to communicate, you may want to, is there a chat box? I can put in my email ID over there. Is there a chat box, Mr. Pandey?
Yes, it's there. It's there.
Could you please share? Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, here you are. I'm putting out my email ID, and please feel free to write into me. Okay, so there it goes, jigsawmoni@gmail.com. Happy to take your questions anytime. Is that there? Can you see my email? Akshina.
No, ma'am, it's not visible yet in the chat box.
Okay, never mind. Please share it with whoever is interested. You all have my email ID. I'll kindly share it, and I'll be happy to continue the conversation with individual students. I think there is a lot I can learn from you. I mean, out of this conversation of the last hour, I definitely have 2 story ideas, if not 3, which I will be following up. And thank you for that. And thank you for listening to me very, very patiently. I wish this whole system was a little more interactive. That would have been so much more fun. But I sort of anticipated this because I have a lot of friends who are teachers, professors, and they tell me this online stuff is really tough. It's not easy to do it online. It is, I think, a huge challenge to even teach, but to do it online is an even bigger challenge. And I hope I have not completely, bored you and lost your interest. I hope you all can take away a couple of lessons for life in journalism as journalists in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Exactly, ma'am. It was so insightful. Would you mind just telling the mail ID, because it was not visible in the chat box?
Sir will
send it to you by email.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir and ma'am. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Monideepa for such a fabulous masterclass. I've seen you as a reporter, almost 2 decades ago. I used to work for the Asian Age, and then I saw her as a senior reporter then, and with all her experience, and she got these otherwise reticent students to open up as well. So this has been just such a wonderful learning experience, and hopefully we'll carry this forward at some offline platforms as well. And we have 2 more students workshop lined up, and we need your kind of an expertise for these student workshop, and the way the idea of anecdotal evidence and the data evidence that you spoke about. We shared a huge data set list we compiled for them, about 70 of them. So all those civil registrations and those things are there. So if students are interested, then they can have a lot of wonderful story ideas from the data itself. We can't thank you enough. This is this YouTube discussion. This will be kind of shared on our YouTube channel, so students can just go back to that again. And hope to see you again at our future interactions, ma'am. And thanks for all your time and these wonderful takeaways for students.